Welcome back, Coinology. In the quiet hum of the minting presses, deep inside the great production halls of the United States Mint, a small and humble piece of copper-plated zinc was born, a single 1-cent coin, carrying with it not only the face of a nation but also a legacy more than a century in the making. It was the year 2019, and few people could have imagined that among the billions of coins struck that year, a handful, perhaps even one, would one day be whispered about in hushed tones across collector communities, internet forums, and YouTube documentaries. A coin worth just 1 cent, rumored to be worth $91,000 million. A story that sounds like fiction, but like all good mysteries, it begins with truth hidden beneath the shine of metal. The penny, though small in size, holds a massive story. Its weight, 2.5 grams, its diameter, 19.05 millimeters, and its composition, 97.5% zinc, layered with a thin coat of pure copper, all seem insignificant details, yet each tells a chapter of the story of modern coinage. For over a century, the 1-cent coin has carried the image of Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, a symbol of freedom, leadership, and sacrifice. His portrait, designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909, has endured every era of change: wars, recessions, industrial revolutions, and digital transformations. Still, in 2019, that same thoughtful face stared out from billions of tiny discs, connecting modern America to its deepest roots. The 2019 penny, in particular, holds an aura of mystery because it came in several versions. There was the 2019 P minted in Philadelphia, the 2019 D from Denver, and the 2019 S proof from San Francisco. But there was also something special, the 2019 W, struck at the West Point Mint, a version that had never existed before. For the first time in history, the West Point facility, famous for minting gold and silver bullion coins, struck Lincoln cents bearing the tiny letter W beneath the date, a symbol that transformed an everyday coin into a collectible treasure. These coins were not released into circulation but included in special proof and mint sets, igniting excitement across the collector world. It was a nod to history and a spark to a new generation of numismatists. To understand how such legends take root, we must look deeper into the world of coins themselves, where the smallest details, a letter, a mint mark, a tiny doubling on a number, can mean the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth a fortune. The 2019 penny, like its predecessors, was struck using dies engraved with microscopic precision. Yet even the slightest variation in those dies, a shift in alignment, a flaw in the metal, or a momentary vibration in the press, can create an error coin. These error coins become the holy grail for collectors, the rare jewels among billions of identical pieces. It is the dream of every treasure hunter to find that one coin that escaped perfection. In 2019, the U.S. Mint produced over 8 billion Lincoln cents. Most went straight into circulation, jingling in pockets, passing from hand to hand in daily transactions, forgotten as soon as they were spent. But somewhere among those billions, one or two might have been struck differently. Maybe a double die reverse, where the Union shield on the back appeared twice. Maybe a missing mint mark. Maybe even a fragment of another coin embedded into it by accident. Such possibilities send collectors racing to inspect every cent they find, magnifying glass in hand, heartbeat quickening as they imagine the impossible, finding the 1 cent that could change their lives forever. Yet the story of the 2019 penny worth billions is not merely about metal and mint marks. It's about human belief, about our fascination with rarity and value. How can something so small, so ordinary, become so extraordinary? The answer lies not in its material but in its meaning. Each coin is a time capsule, holding within it the symbols of a nation. On one side, the stoic face of Lincoln, framed by the word liberty, freedom itself etched into copper. On the other, the Union shield, representing strength, unity, and the enduring promise of a country that once tore itself apart and stitched itself back together. The shield, introduced in 2010, replaced the earlier Lincoln Memorial reverse, and since then, it has stood as a quiet emblem of resilience. In 2019, that symbol carried even greater weight, marking 110 years since Lincoln first appeared on the penny. The value of a coin, collectors say, is never just its face value, it's a combination of rarity, condition, demand, and story. The 2019 W-proof pennies were minted in limited numbers, about 1.5 million, a small fraction compared to billions in circulation. That scarcity alone made them desirable. Some were graded PR70 perfect condition, flawless even under 5x magnification, and those instantly fetched hundreds of dollars. But the true fascination lay in rumors of experimental strikes, unlisted varieties, or secret test coins. As stories spread online, fueled by social media and sensational headlines, the myth grew. A 2019 penny sold for an astronomical price. Some said it was because of a minting error never before seen, others claimed it was a private sale between elite collectors, and a few believed it was simply internet exaggeration. But legends, once told, rarely fade. Behind every coin is also the shadow of time. A penny minted in 2019 might still be shining in someone's drawer today, or it might already be worn down, its edges dulled by countless exchanges. But for collectors, even a single fingerprint, a scratch, or a spot of oxidation can change everything. The grading system, run by organizations like PCGS and NGC, turns physical perfection into monetary value. A coin graded MS-70, mint state perfect, is the pinnacle of modern collecting. It means the coin is as flawless as the day it left the mint. A 2019 penny with that grade could easily be worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. Add in rarity, a unique mint mark, or an unexplained feature, and suddenly, its worth leaps into the stratosphere. But let's step back and look at the man on the coin himself, Abraham Lincoln. His face has appeared on the penny since 1909, longer than any other person on U.S. coinage. His legacy as the great emancipator, the leader who preserved the Union, and the symbol of honesty and perseverance makes the penny more than money, it's a reminder of ideals. When Brenner first designed the coin, it was revolutionary. Before that, U.S. coins only bore images of allegorical figures like liberty. Lincoln was the first real person honored in such a way, a testament to his lasting influence. Over time, the design has evolved, from wheat ears on the reverse to the Lincoln Memorial, and finally to the Union Shield. But the spirit has remained the same. The penny represents endurance, and that endurance mirrors the fascination collectors feel. Year after year, even as inflation reduces its buying power, the penny remains a symbol of nostalgia. People collect them, hoard them, study them. They search through rolls, through change jars, through forgotten drawers in hopes of finding that one extraordinary piece. For some, it's about profit. For others, it's the thrill of discovery, the connection to history. And in 2019, that connection became electric, because suddenly, everyone wanted to find the billion-dollar penny. Whether or not the story of the $91,000 million penny is real is almost irrelevant. What matters is the imagination it sparked. It made people look again at what they'd ignored. It reminded them that even the smallest things can hold enormous stories. Somewhere, perhaps in a quiet collection locked away, there may indeed exist a coin so unique that no one can put a price on it. Or maybe it exists only in legend. Either way, it has already done what few things can. It has transformed the ordinary into the extraordinary. The story of the 2019 penny is far from over. Part 1 is only the beginning, the introduction to a saga of discovery, speculation, and mystery. In the next chapter, the tale deepens, as we explore the minting secrets, the rare varieties discovered in 2019, and the true economic and collector forces that can make a 1-cent coin rise to unimaginable value. The hum of the mint presses continues, the scent of metal and oil hangs in the air, and among countless new coins being born, there might just be another destined to become a legend. As the presses thunder through the corridors of the U.S. Mint, and billions of new coins are born in flashes of copper light, the story of the 2019 penny begins to branch into paths both real and mythical. Each coin, though seemingly identical, carries subtle fingerprints of its creation, invisible quirks, the faintest errors, the softest impressions that make one coin stand apart from another. And for collectors, these are not imperfections, they are the gateways to mystery, the clues that could lead to unimaginable fortune. The 2019 penny is no exception. The machinery that created it runs with mechanical precision, yet no machine is flawless. Each die, the steel stamp used to strike the coin's design, endures immense pressure, thousands of tons with every hit. Over time, those dies wear down, crack, or shift slightly out of alignment. When that happens, something magical occurs, doubling on the letters, slight rotations of the image, ghostly outlines that appear just beside Lincoln's profile or the Union Shield. These minute deviations are catalogued by passionate experts who dedicate years to studying them. To the untrained eye, they are nothing. To the expert collector, they are gold. It was around mid-2019 when reports began surfacing on online forums, found strange 2019 penny, looks doubled, someone wrote. Anyone else notice a shadow on the 9? Others followed, posting magnified images of coins they had found in circulation. The collector community stirred. Some believed these were simple machine doublings, harmless distortions of no real value. But a few sharp-eyed specialists noticed something more deliberate, more distinct. The doubling seemed consistent, perfectly aligned, and visible on key design features. They called it a true doubled die, one of the most sought-after minting phenomena in coin history, and just like that, the 2019 penny's legend deepened. Videos began to appear on YouTube, spreading the word. Every coin roll hunter in America started searching, every metal detectorist turned their attention to modern change. Suddenly, the penny that no one cared about was on every collector's radar. And as often happens in the world of rarity, scarcity fueled obsession. The question wasn't whether a billion-dollar penny existed, it was whether someone had already found it. To understand how such legends grow, one must enter the psychology of value itself. Human beings are storytellers by nature. We see meaning in patterns, we assign worth to rarity. When an ordinary object becomes connected to a myth, like a painting, a baseball card, or a coin, it transcends its physical worth. The 2019 penny, minted by the billions, was not rare. But the idea that one among them could be unique, a flaw of perfection that escaped detection, created a magnetic pull that captured imaginations. In collectors' circles, it became a modern treasure hunt. People who had never cared for coins began to check their change. News channels ran segments about pennies worth thousands. The hunt was on, but beyond speculation, there is a very real and tangible world of coin value. The U.S. Mint's 2019 production runs created four main categories of Lincoln cents: Philadelphia, no mint mark; Denver, D; San Francisco, S; and the rare West Point, W. Each carries its own story. The Philadelphia and Denver coins were circulated widely, everyday money, billions strong. The San Francisco coins were special proof issues, struck with polished dies for collectors. And the West Point pennies, released only in special sets, marked a historic moment, the first time that mint had ever struck cents. That W beneath the date became a symbol of rarity, a tiny letter carrying immense significance. To collectors, that was where the true 2019 treasure began. The 2019 W pennies came in three finishes: proof, uncirculated, and reverse proof. Each was meticulously made, each released in limited quantities, and each instantly sought after. A number so absurd it could not be real, and yet, it was told and retold until it became a kind of folklore. Because in the world of collecting, belief itself adds value, and so, the 2019 penny took on a life of its own, a symbol of possibility. Every coin searcher who opened a fresh roll of cents felt that flicker of hope. Maybe theirs was the one. Maybe they would be the next viral headline. That excitement, that heartbeat of curiosity, is what keeps the hobby alive, but the true story of the 2019 penny's worth lies in understanding the market that defines it. Coins are not static artifacts, their values rise and fall with demand, discovery, and hype. A perfectly ordinary penny might sell for thousands simply because it's part of a unique error batch. An early discovery can set off a bidding war among collectors. The famous 1955 doubled die penny once sold for mere dollars. Today, pristine examples command tens of thousands. The 2019 penny, with its modern flair and mystique, follows in that tradition. Though most are worth face value, a select few in perfect condition, especially those graded and certified, have already sold for hundreds or even thousands. Add a hint of mystery, and imagination does the rest. There's also something poetic about how the smallest coin in America's currency system captures the biggest dreams. It's ironic, even beautiful, that in an age of digital wealth and cryptocurrency, people still obsess over a single cent, a coin that barely buys anything today. Yet that tiny disc connects people across time. It links the hands of mint workers to collectors, historians, and dreamers. The 2019 penny represents a paradox: something worthless by economy, priceless by story. To truly grasp its cultural weight, one must remember the context of its creation. The world in 2019 was on the cusp of global transformation. Technology was advancing faster than ever, societies were shifting, and even the mint itself was adapting to digital innovations in coin production. The penny, once crucial to everyday trade, was now more symbolic than practical. Yet instead of being retired, it was renewed, reborn through the W mint mark experiment, reminding everyone that even tradition can evolve. The mint knew exactly what it was doing. By reintroducing excitement into something ordinary, it reignited the spirit of collecting. And then there are the small details, the ones most people overlook but collectors cherish. The sharpness of Lincoln's coat lines, the depth of the engraving around D designations, untouched by time, flawless in every detail. Those coins, though not mythical, became treasures in their own right, fetching impressive sums. But still, the legend of the astronomical sale refused to die. It became something bigger than fact, a reflection of human fascination itself. The 2019 penny is a mirror. It shows us our curiosity, our desire to find wonder in the everyday. Every generation has its stories: a painting found in an attic, a rare stamp, a misprinted dollar bill. The penny's story fits perfectly within that human pattern. Perhaps no coin ever sold for billions, but the story reminds us that value is never fixed. It is created by those who believe, by those who look closely and care deeply. Even today, collectors continue to hunt. They flip through coin rolls, study coin edges under microscopes, and trade stories of near misses and lucky finds. The internet remains alive with speculation. Some say the mint holds secrets still untold, others insist there's a 2019 penny out there unlike any other, a coin that slipped through reality, existing between fact and dream. And so, the hum of the mint continues, the rhythm of creation never stopping. Each new penny that drops from the press carries the echo of the old legends, as if the machines themselves remember. Somewhere, perhaps in a forgotten drawer, in a dusty jar of spare change, or buried beneath decades of pocket history, one coin may still be waiting, untouched, unrecognized. Extraordinary. This is the allure of the 2019 penny. It's not just about copper and zinc, weight and size. It's about the stories we tell, the hope that the ordinary can become extraordinary. Because deep down, that's what every collector. As the legend of the 2019 penny grew, collectors, historians, and treasure seekers turned their attention to the inner workings of the United States Mint itself. Somewhere inside those massive, humming factories, the truth about the coin's creation might lie waiting, buried in data logs, forgotten production batches, or the silent memories of machines that have struck billions of coins without rest. Every mint, from Philadelphia to Denver, from San Francisco to West Point, has its own rhythm, its own precision, and its own hidden flaws. And sometimes, those flaws are what turn history into fortune. To understand the 2019 penny's mystique, one must first understand how a modern coin comes to life. It begins not in the minting press but in the design room, a place of artistry and mathematics. The master dies are engraved digitally now, crafted with lasers and controlled by software of incredible accuracy. Yet even in this age of perfection, unpredictability remains. A single line of code, a fraction of a millimeter of deviation, or an unnoticed vibration can introduce imperfections that ripple through the production chain. These imperfections, once struck into metal, can never be undone. They are eternal, fossilized in copper. When the first 2019 dies were prepared, they carried Victor David Brenner's timeless portrait of Lincoln, slightly refined over the decades to retain clarity. The reverse die bore the Union shield, 13 vertical stripes bound by a single horizontal bar, symbolizing the unity of the states under one nation. The motto E pluribus unum arches proudly above, the Latin words meaning out of many, one. Beneath the shield, a scroll bears the word 1 cent, bold and resolute, as if proclaiming the enduring strength of small things. When these dies met the blank planchets, the round, unstruck pieces of metal, at a pressure exceeding 50 tons per square inch, the transformation was instantaneous. Heat, pressure, and design merged into one. In that flash of creation, billions of coins were born. Yet, somewhere among them, a few did not emerge as intended. A tiny misalignment, a clogged die, a trace of grease, any of these could alter a single strike. And that is how legends begin. By early 2020, coin forums and auction listings were ablaze with speculation about rare 2019 penny varieties. Collectors reported a few dramatic anomalies: off-center strikes, where part of Lincoln's head was cut off, die cracks that looked like lightning bolts across the coin's surface, and even broad strikes, where the coin expanded beyond its normal diameter, giving it a warped appearance. These were small curiosities to most, but for those who understood, they were potential goldmines. The numismatic market has long rewarded uniqueness, and the stranger the error, the higher the value. The 2019 penny, in its humble circular form, thus became a lens through which people examine deeper truths about value, perfection, and the human love of discovery. What is it that drives someone to search through thousands of coins, day after day, hoping to find the one anomaly? It's not greed alone. It's the whisper of destiny, the thought that fate might have chosen an ordinary person to uncover something extraordinary. The myth of the billion-dollar penny gives the dream a shape, a tangible object to chase, and yet, the U.S. Mint's process remains a marvel of engineering. Each coin, though struck by machine, is born from human oversight. The dies must be engraved, hardened, polished, aligned, and replaced when worn. Quality control is rigorous, but it is never infallible. Every year, a handful of coins escape scrutiny, bearing small mistakes, cuts where parts of the design vanish, clips where the planchet was cut wrong, die cracks like veins running across Lincoln's face. Some are so subtle they require microscopes to detect, others are instantly visible, turning heads even among casual spenders. The year 2019 produced not just ordinary coins but also an emotional connection, a turning point for collectors who had grown tired of digital speculation. In an age when value often exists only in screens and pixels, the penny brought people back to something physical, something they could hold, examine, and treasure. Videos flooded the internet, each showing close-ups of gleaming copper coins under magnifying lenses. Some were real discoveries, others wishful illusions, but together they created a worldwide wave of curiosity. Every comment section buzzed with the same hopeful question: could my penny be the one? And behind that question lies something universal. The story of the 2019 penny is not just American, it's human. It speaks of the endless search for meaning in the mundane, for miracles in the everyday. Somewhere in an old coffee can, a coin jar, or a forgotten drawer, there might lie a piece of history unrecognized. The thought alone is enough to make people look twice at the simplest things. That's the magic, not in the billion-dollar claim, but in the billions of imaginations it awakened. But let's not forget the artistry. Even as machines did most of the work, the design of the penny in 2019 carried deliberate beauty. The crispness of Lincoln's cheekbones, the subtle curve of his collar, the depth of the word liberty, each detail was a homage to Brenner's original 1909 masterpiece. The Union shield, though modern, drew on ancient heraldic traditions, a design meant to evoke strength through simplicity. Each line represented not just unity, but resilience. To the designers at the Mint, it was more than decoration, it was symbolism cast in metal. By the time the year ended, collectors had identified dozens of 2019 varieties. Some, like the 2019 W Reverse Proof, became instant classics, selling for hundreds of dollars in mint packaging. Others gained fame for their errors, the 2019 D with die chips, the Philadelphia issues with slight doubling. But somewhere between those documented rarities and the imagined billion-dollar version, the legend thrived. People didn't just want coins, they wanted stories. They wanted to be part of the legend. Even professional numismatists, the experts who typically deal in hard facts and measured valuations, admitted something profound about the 2019 penny phenomenon. It rekindled public fascination with coins at a time when interest had been fading. Coin clubs saw new members, young collectors joined the hobby, and a wave of new treasure hunters began examining every cent they touched. The myth had done what logic could not, it made people care again about history, metal, and art. Perhaps, somewhere in this mix of passion and myth, lies a deeper message. The 2019 penny is not just an artifact of copper-plated zinc, it's a metaphor for how value is born. It teaches that what we deem worthless can hold greatness if we look closely enough. A coin worth 1 cent can tell stories of national pride, industrial precision, artistic legacy, and human hope. And maybe that is why its legend refuses to fade. Because in a world that moves too fast, the penny asks us to slow down, to notice, to wonder. Collectors continue to search. Auctions continue to list rare varieties. And every now and then, a new discovery emerges, a previously unseen die error, a subtle difference in design, a new reason to believe. The 2019 penny still circulates freely, passing unnoticed through hands and pockets, across counters and drawers. It is both everywhere and nowhere, both common and rare, both real and mythical. That paradox is what gives it life. Somewhere, a child may find one in a pile of change and feel curiosity spark for the first time. Somewhere else, a collector may hold one under a magnifying glass and feel a tremor of excitement. Maybe this is it, the one coin that history forgot. And somewhere, deep in a vault or a private collection, there may truly exist a specimen unlike any other, waiting for the day it will surface and remind the world that legends, even those born of copper, have a life of their own. The hum of the mint machines fades into silence now, but the echo of their work remains. The coins they struck in 2019 will outlast us all, the tiny, enduring witnesses to our stories, our myths, and our dreams. Each one carries not only the face of Lincoln, but the reflection of all who have ever searched for meaning in the smallest things. And perhaps, in that reflection, lies the real treasure, the one that no amount of money could ever equal. As the years passed after 2019, the sound of the mint presses quieted into the steady pulse of memory, but the story of the penny refused to rest. What began as a technical curiosity had turned into an economic ripple, spreading across markets, collector clubs, and digital communities that span continents. A coin so small had ignited conversations about money itself, how value is born, how it grows, and how a single spark of human fascination can set entire industries in motion. By 2020, the numismatic world had entered a new renaissance. Auction houses reported record participation, websites that once sold modest coin sets began listing rare modern issues for thousands of dollars. It was as if the humble cent had reminded everyone that treasure did not always glitter, it could also gleam in copper tones. Dealers began to track prices of every 2019 issue, from the West Point proofs to the ordinary Denver circulation strikes, mapping their fluctuations like meteorologists watching a storm. Some called it the penny boom, a miniature gold rush in the age of digital currency. Collectors who had long specialized in older coins, Morgan dollars, wheat cents, colonial coppers, found themselves drawn to the modern. They began re-examining rolls of 2019 coins with microscopes, documenting die varieties, creating catalogs, sharing photographs in high definition. Whole communities arose around a single year of minting. And through that collective energy, something profound happened. The market for small coins expanded into a global dialogue. The penny, once dismissed as insignificant, had become a teacher, drawing in a new generation eager to understand the language of mint marks, strikes, and grades. The United States Mint itself felt the reverberation. Reports from the Philadelphia facility spoke of increased requests for educational tours, media inquiries about production methods, and a surge in demand for proof sets. The West Point experiment, originally a quiet celebration of Lincoln's legacy, had become a phenomenon. Inside those mint walls, where massive coining presses once thundered in anonymity, employees began to sense the world beyond their machines. Each blank planchet sliding down the feeder belt carried potential history. Every slight imperfection was now a story waiting to be discovered. Meanwhile, economists observed something stranger still. Online markets for collectible coins began influencing real-world prices of copper and zinc. Speculators who once ignored coinage began studying mint output data, predicting future scarcity the way investors study stock charts. The penny had become an indicator of sentiment. When demand for coins rose, so did optimism in small investors. It was a quiet, almost poetic reminder that confidence, even in the smallest currency, could move markets. Across America, small coin shops that had nearly vanished during the digital decade experienced a quiet revival. Glass counters gleamed again with protective cases and magnifying lamps. Children visited with their parents, clutching jars of change, asking the same hopeful question whispered since the rumor began, "Can you check if mine's the rare one?" And the shop owners, with their careful eyes and gentle hands, would lift each coin toward the light, searching for that spark of anomaly. Whether they found it or not mattered less than the ritual itself. In that exchange, between curiosity and expertise, between dream and truth, the culture of collecting was reborn. News outlets picked up the story once more. Documentaries aired on television, analyzing how the myth of $1 billion penny could emerge in an age of instant fact-checking. Some journalists saw it as evidence of misinformation, others as proof of enduring wonder. But beyond the headlines, a deeper truth lingered. Humans needed myths, especially ones that began with something tangible. The 2019 penny became a symbol of that need. Its image circulated online, magnified thousands of times, glowing under studio lights as narrators spoke of hidden fortunes and forgotten artistry. Each retelling added a new layer, blending fact with legend until the two were inseparable. Behind the curtain, however, the professional graders continued their meticulous work. In rooms lit by cold white lamps, specialists at PCGS and NGC examined coin after coin, their lenses revealing microscopic landscapes of ridges and valleys. They graded them with near-scientific precision: MS69 red, MS70 deep cameo, PF70 ultra-proof. The best of the best entered encapsulated holders, tiny transparent coffins that preserved perfection for eternity. Collectors would pay dearly for these numbers, for in a world of billions, perfect was a rare word indeed, yet even perfection had limits. For every flawless coin, there was another that told a Messier story: a crack across Lincoln's coat, a bubble beneath the copper plating, a misaligned die that stretched the letters just enough to look like an echo. These flawed coins held a different beauty, the beauty of accident, of chance, of creation not quite under control. The mint called them errors, collectors called them miracles. It was within these imperfections that the idea of the billion-dollar penny truly lived. Because if one coin could break the rules so completely, perhaps it could also break the boundaries of value. As collectors compared notes, digital platforms transformed the hunt. Online marketplaces displayed endless grids of 2019 pennies, each photographed under different lighting, each seller claiming a hint of rarity. Prices climbed, fell, then climbed again as stories circulated about private offers and secret holdings. Forums debated authenticity, experts published studies, amateur treasure hunters refused to give up. The myth had matured into an ecosystem, part science, part storytelling, part speculation, and then there were the historians. They stepped back from the frenzy and asked quieter questions. What does it mean that a 1-cent coin can cause such fascination? What does it say about us that we chase perfection in objects designed to be ordinary? The answer, they found, was as old as civilization itself. Coins are mirrors of culture. They carry faces, mottos, and ideals. They are time compressed into metal. To study a coin is to study the values of the society that struck it. The 2019 penny, with Lincoln's enduring gaze and the Union Shield's disciplined lines, spoke of unity, endurance, and the relentless American pursuit of progress. Beyond the United States, collectors from Europe, Asia, and the Middle East joined the conversation. The internet had erased borders. A coin minted in Denver could be analyzed in Delhi within seconds. Video subtitled in dozens of languages dissected the penny's composition: 2.5 grams, 19.05 millimeters, 97.5% zinc, 2.5% copper, and marveled at how something so scientifically consistent could still harbor mystery. Some saw it as proof that art and industry could coexist, others as a meditation on how value travels across cultures. A few simply loved the thrill of the chase. As demand rose, counterfeits inevitably appeared. Skilled forgers experimented with adding fake doubling or re-engraving mint marks to mimic the rare West Point W. But the experts could always tell. The texture of authentic minting, the microscopic flowlines created by genuine pressure, could never be perfectly copied. The counterfeit wave only heightened respect for the originals, reinforcing the lesson that authenticity, like rarity, cannot be manufactured, it must emerge naturally, through time and chance. Meanwhile, educators began using the 2019 penny in classrooms to teach economics and history. Teachers held it up as an example of how perception drives value, how stories can influence markets, and how art endures in even the smallest denominations. Students who had never handled physical money before, children of a cashless generation, found themselves entranced by this tiny relic of human design. The penny became not just currency, but curriculum. The wider economy, too, took subtle notice. As collectors hoarded rolls of cents, circulation patterns shifted. Banks reported temporary shortages of new pennies in some regions, a curious echo of the coin hoarding events of the 1960s. It was a small phenomenon in numerical terms, but symbolically powerful. The penny, nearly phased out by some countries, proved it could still command in close and see the fine lines of Lincoln's profile, the way his eyes seemed to hold both sorrow and determination, the way the Union shield catches light like a sunrise on metal. In the end, the economic surge faded as all waves do, but the cultural imprint remained. The penny reminded the world that value is not static, it is a narrative built on attention and emotion. It taught that even in a century dominated by digital abstractions, physical objects can still awaken wonder. The 2019 penny was proof that hist. By the dawn of the 2030s, the legend of the 2019 penny had already settled into the deep soil of collective memory, yet its roots kept spreading. What began as a whisper in collectors' circles had turned into a movement that reached far beyond numismatics. The internet, ever hungry for mystery, carried its echo into every corner of the digital world. Videos were shared in dozens of languages, thumbnails glowing with that familiar reddish hue, titles promising discoveries of unimaginable worth. And still, at the heart of every story, there was that same small disk of copper-plated zinc, 2.5 grams of quiet intrigue. Social media turned the hunt into a spectacle. Platforms once meant for fleeting entertainment became virtual treasure maps. People filmed themselves opening bankrolls live, their hands trembling as they peeled back the paper to reveal rows of glinting pennies. Some channels grew millions of subscribers, entire communities forming around the shared anticipation of finding something extraordinary in the ordinary. Every click, every comment, every shared moment of wonder reinforced the myth. The penny became more than a coin, it became a symbol of participation, of being part of something that defied logic yet united strangers across continents. Numismatic experts tried to guide the tide. They released videos explaining minting processes, showing die stages and strike classifications. They demonstrated how to tell a doubled die from machine doubling, how to spot plating blisters, how to measure thickness and edge quality. Yet even as science entered the conversation, the romance refused to fade. The story was not just about data, it was about hope. Each tutorial ended with the same soft invitation: check your change, you never know. Meanwhile, in quiet laboratories where microscopes hummed and cameras clicked, a new branch of study emerged: digital numismatics. High-resolution imaging systems captured every contour of the 2019 issues, building archives so detailed that artificial intelligence could compare specimens and grade them automatically. This technology promised consistency beyond human error, but it also changed the meaning of discovery. Where once a collector's trained eye was the ultimate authority, now algorithms scan billions of pixels to decide perfection. The coin world stood at the crossroads between tradition and innovation. Some resisted, preferring the tactile weight of the coin in hand, others embraced the efficiency of the digital age. Yet both sides shared the same reverence for that single cent, that artifact of continuity in a rapidly vanishing physical world. The United States Mint, observing this unfolding phenomenon, responded in subtle ways. Commemorative sets were reissued, packaging redesigned to honor Lincoln's enduring presence. Educational campaigns framed the penny as a piece of living heritage rather than mere currency. Officials who once debated discontinuing the cent now found themselves defending its symbolism. They spoke of accessibility, of history, of the way a coin could connect generations. And in classrooms and museums, the penny took its rightful place as both tool and totem, a lesson in design, economy, and identity. The economic echoes of the 2019 legend rippled outward. Markets for other modern issues surged, investors diversifying their portfolios not only with stocks or cryptocurrency but with physical coins. Some analysts dismissed it as nostalgia trading, but others saw deeper meaning, a reawakening of tactile value in a digital century. For many, collecting pennies was no longer about profit, it was a meditation on patience. Searching through thousands of coins required focus, discipline, and faith. Each discovery, however small, felt like a victory over randomness. Stories began to surface of individuals whose lives had been changed by the myth. A retired machinist from Ohio, who had spent decades at the mint, wrote a memoir describing the pride he felt every time a coin left the press, knowing it might one day be examined under magnification by someone who saw beauty in its precision. A teenager in Manila created an art installation using thousands of 2019 pennies arranged to form a portrait of Lincoln, shimmering under gallery lights like a mosaic of copper suns. A collector in Istanbul turned his small shop into a museum of American sense, where visitors could trace the evolution of design from wheat ears to shields, learning how history could be read in metal across oceans and languages. The story resonated. The penny had become a shared myth of value and attention. It told people that meaning could be found anywhere if one only looked closely enough. And in a world increasingly distracted by speed, the act of looking itself became revolutionary, but beneath the wonder, there lingered a quieter realization. The legend of the $91,000 million penny was not truly about a transaction or a number, it was a reflection of human imagination at work. The market value was a metaphor, an exaggeration that revealed truth through fiction. People didn't need to believe in the literal figure, they needed to believe in the possibility that something small could hold infinite significance. It was that belief that filled conventions, online auctions, and living rooms where collectors spread coins across tables under the steady beam of desk lamps. The global collector economy adapted. Authentication companies launched blockchain registries for graded coins, ensuring transparency and provenance. Digital certificates linked each 2019 penny in private collections to public ledgers, allowing owners to trace their pieces' journeys from mint to market. The coin world entered the era of verifiable storytelling, where every scratch and mark became data yet still carried emotional weight. Collectors spoke of their coins the way art lovers spoke of canvases, unique, irreplaceable, resonant with history. Meanwhile, filmmakers and historians collaborated to document the phenomenon itself. Cameras followed treasure hunters, archivists, and skeptics alike. They filmed long shots of coin rolls being opened, the soft clink of metal against metal echoing like rainfall. Narrators spoke of patience and curiosity as virtues, of the way an object designed for circulation could instead inspire reflection. In interviews, scholars compared the penny legend to ancient myths, the philosopher's stone, the Holy Grail, the alchemist's dream of turning base metal into gold. And indeed, perhaps the 2019 penny had achieved that in spirit, transforming common zinc into the gold of imagination. In one remarkable moment captured in a documentary premiere, an elderly collector was asked why he still searched for the rare variant after all these years. He smiled, eyes glinting behind magnifying lenses, and said softly, "Because I still believe that one day, I'll find something that reminds me why I started looking." That sentence hung in the air, simple and luminous, encapsulating what numbers and auctions could never convey. The 2019 penny had grown beyond economics, beyond collecting. It had become a meditation on faith, the faith that meaning exists in detail, that wonder can still live in repetition, that beauty sometimes hides in plain sight. And so, even as new coins entered circulation, even as technology advanced, people kept searching, not only for money but for connection. In time, museums began dedicating entire exhibits to the cultural impact of the modern cent. Panels displayed the original dies, photographs of mint workers, clips from viral videos that had ignited the craze. Visitors walked through darkened halls lit by soft copper-colored light, hearing whispers of interviews, recordings of coin rolls being opened, and the faint heartbeat of machines from the mint. At the end of the exhibit stood a single 2019 penny under glass, magnified by a slow-moving camera. The voiceover reminded viewers that every object, no matter how small, holds a fragment of human ambition. Outside the museum, life went on, markets shifted, currencies evolved, yet the penny remained. It was still exchanged in stores, still found on sidewalks, still tossed into fountains with wishes attached. It had returned to its humble role, but something about it had changed forever. Those who held it now did so with a sense of quiet reverence, as if touching a relic of collective imagination. The coin was no longer just money, it was memory, and somewhere, maybe in an attic or an old jar of change, perhaps a coin still waits, the one that sparked it all, the piece that carries the invisible mark, the one that legend insists is worth more than kingdoms. Whether it truly exists no longer matters. What matters is that people continue to believe, to look, to marvel. Because belief itself is the rarest currency of all, and the 2019 penny remains its shining symbol. As the years unfolded and the myth of the 2019 penny matured into legend, something subtle began to happen in the collective mind. What had started as a story about rarity became a meditation on the nature of value itself. The world was changing, digital currencies soared, economies redefined wealth with invisible numbers, but through it all, the penny remained, small, tangible, eternal. People began to ask not what the coin was worth, but why they cared so deeply that it might be worth something at all. The answers came not from economists or collectors, but from thinkers, poets, and philosophers who saw in that tiny copper circle a mirror reflecting the human condition. They said, "Here lies everything we are, a people who dreamed that the simplest things might hide infinite treasure." The penny was proof that even in an age of algorithms, the heart still sought symbols, stories, and substance. One writer described the penny as a grain of civilization's memory. He meant that every coin, no matter how new, carries the ghost of its predecessors, the echoes of hands that once exchanged, saved, or lost it. In the penny's surface, under the microscope's gaze, one could see time itself pressed into metal. It was history condensed into 19.05 millimeters of space, a story told in ridges and reliefs, and then there was the face. Abraham Lincoln, steadfast, gazing into eternity. His portrait, unchanged through generations, had become more than representation, it was a statement of endurance. A reminder that ideals, once minted, could outlast their makers. People began to look at that face differently. It was not just a political icon anymore, but a philosopher's visage. In his silent expression, framed by the word liberty, many found reflection, perhaps a question more than an answer. Liberty, the word said, and yet how many saw it daily without noticing? The penny forced attention back to the forgotten language of design. The lettering, the date, the mint mark, each an element of identity. The Union shield on the reverse was not decoration, it was declaration, representing the unity of states, the protection of the republic's ideals, the promise that even the smallest currency bears the weight of a nation's story. The documentary's camera lingers on that shield now, slowly panning across its horizontal stripes and central bar. The light plays on the raised edges, revealing how artistry and metallurgy meet. The narrator's voice grows softer, reflective, resonant. He speaks of how the penny's story mirrors our own, how humans, too, are struck from raw material by forces of history, polished by time, circulated among others, accumulating marks and memories. Each of us, in a way, is a coin, unique, worn, carrying traces of every touch we've known. Collectors, historians, even skeptics began to agree that the true miracle of the 2019 penny was not its rarity, but its power to make people look closer. In an era of instant images and fleeting attention, the coin demanded patience. You could not rush discovery, you had to hold the coin under light, turn it, study its fields, let your eyes adjust to its depth. It was a ritual of focus, a conversation with detail. In that slowness lay its wisdom, and then there was the sound, the gentle ring of copper when a penny dropped on glass or marble. That sound, though often ignored, carried nostalgia. It was the heartbeat of cash registers, the echo of pockets jingling in childhood walks to corner stores. Even the sound had meaning. It reminded the world that money was once physical, that exchange once required presence. The 2019 penny was a relic of that tactile era, a whisper from the age before digital silence. As the legend deepened, academics began using it as a case study in perception. Papers were written about the psychology of belief, the sociology of collecting, the economics of myth. They concluded that people are drawn to stories of hidden value because such tales promise control in an uncontrollable world. If a single penny could be worth billions, then perhaps luck and destiny were not so far apart. Perhaps miracles could still happen, not in cathedrals, but in pockets. The film shows scenes from around the globe, a child holding a magnifying glass over a pile of coins, an old man polishing one with a soft cloth, a teacher explaining to her class how the penny's composition changed over time. These vignettes reveal that the myth, for all its exaggeration, accomplished something profound. It reconnected people with history, with patience, with each other. Somewhere in a quiet study, a philosopher writes, the 2019 penny is not a story about money. It is a story about attention. Whatever we choose to notice becomes valuable. Those words echo through the documentary's score, accompanied by a slow piano melody, each note shimmering like light on metal. The viewer is left to wonder whether all value begins with noticing, whether wealth, beauty, and meaning exist only when we choose to see them. The penny also became a metaphor for time itself. Its mintage year, 2019, marked the end of one decade and the beginning of another, a symbolic hinge between eras. People looked back and realized how much the world had changed since then: economies, politics, technology, even the rhythm of daily life. The coin became a token of that threshold, a reminder of what was lost and what remained constant. Copper, zinc, art, history, unchanged. Human wonder, unchanged, and so, museums began to pair the 2019 penny with ancient artifacts, placing it beside Roman denarii and Greek drachmas to show continuity across millennia. Visitors could trace the lineage of civilization through currency, the evolution of faces, symbols, and inscriptions. They could see how every society, in every age, stamped its soul onto metal, trusting that posterity would read it. The penny, in that company, looked both humble and proud, a modern heir to an ancient tradition. But even as the academic world celebrated the coin's cultural significance, another quieter transformation was happening, the personal one. People began keeping their own 2019 pennies as talismans. Not for resale, not for fame, but for meaning. They carried them in wallets, placed them on desks, framed them beside photographs. To them, the coin was a reminder that miracles begin in smallness, that the extraordinary often hides inside the ordinary. In a way, the penny had completed its journey, from currency to myth, from myth to symbol, from symbol to mirror. It no longer needed markets or auctions or validation. Its worth was now emotional, philosophical, almost spiritual. To look at it was to reflect on one's own search for meaning, to feel connected to the endless human habit of turning the material into metaphor. The documentary's narration slows further now, voice deepening, almost whispering. We live in an age where numbers chase infinity, but perhaps the truest wealth is found in a single cent. A reminder that value is born not from abundance, but from attention, and that every coin, like every moment, holds a story waiting to be seen. And with that, the camera fades to a field of shimmering pennies under sunlight. They glimmer not as money, but as fragments of memory, each reflecting a piece of the human spirit, curious, hopeful, enduring. The story of the 2019 penny, it seems, is no longer about the coin at all. It is about us, our need to believe, our hunger to find meaning in matter, and our eternal fascination with the idea that somewhere, hidden in plain sight, lies the miracle we've been searching for all along. Time moves quietly, almost unnoticed, like the faint shimmer of light across a polished coin. The 2019 penny, once a curiosity, then a legend, had now transcended its material nature. It existed everywhere, on screens, in books, in whispered conversations among collectors, and yet nowhere at all, because what people now sought was not the object itself but the idea it represented. It had become an emblem of humanity's deepest paradox, the search for permanence in a world defined by change. In every age, civilizations have chosen symbols to outlast themselves. The Egyptians built pyramids. The Romans minted emperors. The medieval world painted saints. But the modern world, with all its machinery and its speed, found its mirror in a penny, a coin so common it was nearly invisible. And yet invisibility, too, has power. The penny had survived centuries precisely because it was overlooked. It slipped through the cracks of time, unnoticed, unvalued, enduring in silence until one day, the world remembered it again. The documentary's narrator pauses, his voice calm but weighty, as images of spinning coins fill the screen. The camera slows each rotation, each gleam of reflected light becoming a metaphor for the turning of epochs. He speaks, perhaps we do not create value. Perhaps we only rediscover it, again and again, in different forms. The coin becomes a vessel for larger truths. In its roundness, philosophers saw the circle of life and history, beginnings folding into endings, endings feeding new beginnings. In its composition, they saw the evolution of technology, copper giving way to zinc, tradition blending with necessity. In its design, they saw art and politics intertwined, the face of a leader, the symbol of unity, the words "In God we trust" still asserting faith amid uncertainty. The penny was more than minted metal, it was civilization pressed into form, and yet, beyond the grandeur of theory, the coin remained intimate. Every person who held one felt, if only for a moment, connected to something larger. The surface of the coin carried fingerprints, oils, microscopic scratches, evidence of countless lives intersecting through exchange. It was the quiet social fabric of the world, invisible but binding. The 2019 penny, in its imagined billion-dollar glory, had drawn attention to that truth, that even the smallest transaction, the smallest gesture, can echo through time. The film now shifts to scenes of night, the glow of city lights, the hum of machines, the rustle of coins dropped into jars. The voice continues, lower now, reflective. In a world of disappearing touch, the penny remains something we can hold. It weighs almost nothing, yet it anchors us. It reminds us that value, before it is measured in numbers, is felt in the hand. Historians began to interpret the penny as a microcosm of the 21st century. It was both obsolete and eternal, both mass-produced and priceless. Its story echoed the contradictions of the era that made it. The 2019 penny, struck in billions, became the perfect metaphor for a time when abundance coexisted with longing, when humanity, surrounded by plenty, still yearned for rarity, for meaning, for something truly special. Sociologists called this the paradox of the modern relic. In the digital age, where everything could be copied, the authentic became sacred. The penny, because it was real, physical, unique in every imperfection, became a relic of the tangible world. People craved that feeling again, the coolness of metal between their fingers, the slight texture of engraving beneath their thumbs. They craved what could not be swiped, downloaded, or deleted, and so, the penny became a symbol of resistance. Against disposability. Against forgetfulness. Against the idea that small things don't matter. It whispered quietly, I am still here, and in that whisper was the sound of endurance. Artists joined the conversation. Sculptors cast giant pennies out of recycled copper, placing them in city squares as monuments to the overlooked. Poets wrote verses about finding beauty in the banal. Musicians composed symphonies whose movements mirrored the rhythmic clink of coins falling into hands. In all this, the 2019 penny served as muse, a reminder that art, like value, often begins in the ordinary. The documentary shows these scenes: a sculptor polishing a giant copper coin in sunlight, a child sketching a penny in her notebook, a musician striking chimes tuned to the frequency of copper. The narration weaves through them like a current, soft and resonant. Perhaps this is how meaning survives, not in monuments of power, but in tokens of memory. We carry them, we lose them, we find them again, and in that endless motion, we remember who we are. As the years passed, museums cataloged not only the coin but also the culture it inspired, the videos, the myths, the art, the philosophies. It was as if the penny had minted a world of thought around itself. One curator described it perfectly: the 2019 cent is not an artifact. It's a conversation that never ends. That conversation reached into questions far beyond economics. What does it mean to assign value? Is rarity the source of worth, or is it attention? If every coin were cherished as the rarest, would rarity still exist? The penny challenged the very logic of scarcity. It taught that meaning could multiply infinitely without diminishing. The more people believed in it, the more real it became, and still, somewhere beneath all the layers of philosophy and fascination, there was a simple, unshakable truth: the penny endured because people cared. That was its secret, its alchemy. Attention turned metal into myth. Myth turned myth into legacy. And legacy turned back into memory, completing the circle once again. Now the film moves to its quietest moment, a slow fade into a darkroom where a single coin rests under a beam of light. The camera lingers. Every detail is visible: the faint ridges of Lincoln's coat, the subtle curve of the date, the tiny D mint mark tucked neatly below. The narrator's voice returns, almost like a whisper in prayer: we look for miracles, but sometimes, they have already been struck. We pass them from hand to hand, calling them small change, never realizing that they are the stories we leave behind. The music swells, a slow, warm harmony of strings and piano. The scene expands outward again, coins spinning in slow motion, their copper edges glinting like sunsets. And the voice concludes: in every age, humanity leaves behind symbols to say we were here, that we dreamed, that we believed in something lasting. The 2019 penny is one of those symbols. Not because it is perfect, or rare, or worth a fortune, but because it proves that even the smallest thing can hold the weight of eternity. The camera fades to black, the faint echo of a coin landing softly on wood. A pause. Then, the whisper again, distant but clear: 1 cent, infinite meaning. Long before the presses thundered in Philadelphia or Denver, before Lincoln's face became a familiar emblem of endurance, the idea of the coin itself was already ancient. Humanity has always sought to capture trust in something tangible, to make the invisible concept of worth visible in metal and weight. The penny, in this sense, is not merely American, it is universal, the modern descendant of a lineage stretching back thousands of years. Its ancestors glittered in the dust of Babylon, clinked in the markets of Athens, crossed the seas with Roman merchants, and echoed through the bazaars of Persia. Each coin, no matter its origin, carried the same promise: that value could be held in the hand, that belief could be measured in weight. The 2019 penny, small and unassuming, stands as the final whisper of that ancient conversation. In it lives the memory of empires and markets, of craftsmen and dreamers, of every exchange that built civilization itself. When you turn it in your fingers, you are touching the same story that once moved caravans across deserts and ships across oceans. The metal remembers. It remembers not in words, but in the silent language of form and purpose. In ancient times, coins were not merely money, they were declarations of identity. Kings struck their faces into gold to prove dominion. City-states carved their emblems into silver to claim pride. Each coin was a miniature monument, a portable inscription of history. And though centuries have turned those empires to dust, their coins still gleam in museums, testifying that while power fades, the symbols of value endure. The 2019 penny belongs to that lineage, carrying not the mark of a monarch, but of a democracy, the face of a leader chosen by the people, surrounded by the word liberty. The documentary's lens glides over ancient coins now, their edges worn smooth by time. The narrator's voice flows quietly over the images. Civilization began when humans agreed that a mark in metal could mean trust. It endures because we still believe that promise. The scene transitions to the modern mint, machines roaring, sheets of zinc fed into presses, each impact a heartbeat of continuity. The penny links the two worlds, the stone-floored markets of antiquity and the digital grids of the 21st century, bridging millennia in a single act of exchange. But the world has changed. Where once coins ruled commerce, now invisible currencies flow through invisible channels. Value has become code, unseen yet omnipresent. And yet, amid the hum of servers and the glow of screens, the penny persists. It endures like a relic of touch, a reminder that wealth was once something you could hold, something that caught light and left fingerprints. In that persistence lies its quiet defiance. The penny is not just a unit of money, it is a symbol of memory resisting erasure. The narrator speaks again, softer now. Every new system of value begins by trying to forget the old, but the old never truly disappears. It lingers in the shape of what follows. The camera cuts between images of ancient coins under glass and a modern smartphone displaying digital currency balances. The contrast is stark yet poetic, the same human impulse dressed in different forms. Whether copper or code, all money begins with belief. And belief is something no machine can mint. In the years after the legend of the billion-dollar penny, discussions of value evolved. Economists began citing the story in lectures about the psychology of trust, the fragility of perception, the alchemy that turns ordinary material into something priceless. Students debated whether the penny's myth revealed a flaw in human logic or a triumph of imagination. Some argued that it proved how unstable markets could be, others said it demonstrated the creative power of collective faith. But perhaps both were true, for every economy is built on imagination solidified into agreement. The 2019 penny was proof that agreement itself can be art. Meanwhile, philosophers compared the coin to the digital blockchain, that other great invention of trust. They observed that both systems, minting and mining, presses and processors, serve the same purpose: to ensure authenticity in a world of imitation. One uses metal, the other mathematics, but both are born from the same yearning to make belief concrete, to give shape to faith. As the narrator speaks, the imagery shifts: ancient forges glowing red with molten copper, the rhythmic pounding of hammers, the sudden flash of a coin struck and cooled. Then, a crossfade to modern servers, their lights pulsing in rhythmic sequence like a heartbeat. The voice continues: from fire to data, from metal to algorithm, the journey is one story told in different tongues. And yet the meaning remains: the need to trust, to trade, to connect. The 2019 penny story had reminded the world of that continuity. In a time when people feared that the physical world was fading into digital abstraction, the coin re-anchored imagination in matter. Its legend made people feel the weight of belief again, not as code but as substance. To hold a penny was to hold history, and history gave comfort. Collectors began to speak of the coin in spiritual terms. They said that when you hold it between your fingers, you are not just touching metal, you are touching every hand that came before. It becomes a chain of human contact, a relic of civilization's oldest ritual, the exchange. A penny moves from one person to another, silently carrying stories neither can see, yet both trust are real. In that invisible passage lies the poetry of all commerce, the faith that connection can be measured in weight, that meaning can move without words. The documentary now returns to the image of Lincoln's face, magnified until the viewer can see the tiny grooves cut by the die. The narrator's tone deepens: the lines on this face are not just design. They are the marks of time, the engravings of intention. When light passes over them, it reads the same truth every age has known: that worth, like character, is not printed but pressed. Outside, the modern world hums forward: cars without drivers, screens without edges, voices without bodies. Yet somewhere in a pocket, a penny remains. It clings faintly when someone walks. That sound, once background noise, now feels almost sacred. It is the echo of an older rhythm, the pulse of exchange that built the world. And then the narrator reflects: when the last screen fades, when the last server sleeps, something will still glint in the dust. It will be small, copper, familiar. A witness to everything that once mattered. The camera zooms out again: cities dissolving into clouds, clouds dissolving into stars. The coin remains at the center of the frame, glowing softly. From the first trade to the last, the voice says, we have searched for a way to make belief endure. The penny is our whisper to the future, saying, we trusted, we hoped, we remembered. In this moment, the coin stops being an object. It becomes an orbit, a loop connecting beginnings to endings. The legend of the billion-dollar cent fades into myth, but the lesson remains radiant: that civilization itself is built on the small, the simple, the shared. Every great empire, every new idea, every digital dawn begins with the same humble act: one person offering something of value to another. The 2019 penny is that gesture made eternal. The final image of this part is a close-up of a hand placing a penny into another's palm. The exchange is slow, reverent, illuminated by a warm light that could be sunrise or sunset, the beginning or the end of history, or perhaps both. And the voice concludes, we call it 1 cent. But what it really measures is everything we have ever believed in. Generations passed, as generations always do. The story of the 2019 penny slipped from headlines into history, from memory into myth. Children who once saw it in their parents' hands grew old, their own children knowing it only as an image in books, or a shimmering photograph glowing on a museum screen. Yet somehow, the penny never disappeared. Like a quiet echo in a canyon, its legend found new voices in every age that followed. By the middle of the 21st century, the world had changed beyond recognition. Physical money had become a relic of the past, transactions invisible, instantaneous, calculated by artificial intelligences that never slept. But in the corners of homes, in drawers and keepsake boxes, the pennies remained. Tiny discs of copper and zinc, dull with time yet radiant with meaning. People could not throw them away. They were too small to spend, too common to sell, and yet too full of memory to discard. They lingered like the heartbeat of an older world. In those years, a new generation of thinkers began to look backward. They called themselves the archivists of touch. Artists, philosophers, and digital anthropologists, they sought to preserve the things that could still be held, the tangible artifacts of human belief. For them, the penny was sacred. It symbolized the last moment before the world forgot how to touch its own value. They gathered them, polished them, studied the micro scratches on their surfaces as if reading scripture. Under microscopes, they saw entire landscapes, grooves like valleys, scratches like rivers, each one carved by time and human contact. In those lines, they saw stories. They imagined who might have held that particular coin, perhaps a child buying candy, a traveler paying for a meal, a collector staring in awe at its shine. Each coin, they said, was a memory compressed into metal, a diary written in touch instead of words. They built exhibitions not of gold or gemstones, but of pennies. Rooms filled with them, their copper glinting under soft light, the air quiet and reverent. Visitors would stand for hours, staring at something so ordinary that it became extraordinary again. The documentary shows these scenes now, futuristic museums glowing with holographic displays, where visitors can trace the surface of a 2019 penny enlarged 1,000 times, every mark illuminated like a constellation. The narrator's voice returns, slow and meditative. We left behind temples of stone and built temples of data, but still we return to metal and weight. The smallest relics of our past become our greatest teachers. The legend of the billion-dollar penny had evolved. It was no longer about money at all. It was about endurance. It was about how meaning survives the collapse of systems, how something as small as a coin could carry the memory of an entire civilization's dreams. In schools, children learned about it not as economics, but as philosophy. Teachers would pass around replicas and ask, "What gives this value?" The answers changed with each generation, yet one truth remained: value is the shadow of belief. The voice of the narrator softens, deep and echoing. When humanity stopped touching its wealth, it began searching for meaning again. And in that search, it found the penny waiting, as if it had been there all along. The camera drifts through time again, decades blending like mist. The penny appears in paintings, in songs, in digital art installations. A filmmaker recreates its story, blending old footage of minting machines with cosmic imagery of galaxies swirling like coins in space. The voice continues: in the spinning of worlds and the turning of coins, we see the same motion, the rhythm of creation itself. Every revolution, every orbit, every story begins with a single turn. Scholars of the future began to trace the penny's legacy back through culture, finding its reflection everywhere. They found poems written about its color, its weight, its humility. They found that even in the most advanced societies, where currency had become energy pulses and quantum signatures, people still placed a coin on graves, on monuments, on the hands of the departed. It was a gesture older than language, a way of saying, "You mattered." The penny had become the modern version of that ancient coin of passage, the token that linked the living and the dead. In that sense, the 2019 penny outlived its own economy. It became not a tool of trade, but a vessel of remembrance. It no longer moved through markets, it moved through hearts. People began to give them as gifts of meaning, tiny circles of memory passed from one soul to another. A new proverb emerged: 1 cent for forever. The film slows again. A mother places a penny in her child's hand, the same way her own mother once did. "Keep this," she says. "It's not worth much, but it's everything." The camera lingers on that hand, small fingers curling around the coin, the copper catching the faint reflection of sunlight. That moment becomes the story's heartbeat, the proof that even the smallest symbol can carry eternity if love remembers it. The narrator's voice rises again. In the end, the penny became what it was always meant to be, not a measure of value, but a mirror of belief. It asked no one to bow before it, no one to fear it. It simply waited to be noticed. And when it was, it revealed that value lives not in the coin, but in the connection it creates. The camera now glides over a vast landscape of future Earth, cities gleaming with glass, fields of solar light, oceans humming with turbines. Somewhere among them, billions of pennies lie buried in the soil, mixed with dust, fossils, and memory. The light of sunset glows across the world, copper-colored, like the very metal that once represented the smallest unit of worth. The voice concludes this part softly. Perhaps the story of the penny is not about wealth at all. Perhaps it is about how every age leaves behind a fragment of its faith, and how even after the world changes, faith remains. A small round promise, glinting in the dark, whispering, "Remember me." The music fades, the scene dissolves to black, and only a single sound remains, the faint, familiar ring of a coin spinning, slowing, then resting flat. The screen fades from black into the soft light of dawn. A slow piano begins, the kind that feels like memory turned into sound. The light grows warmer, falling across a table where a single penny lies, its surface worn, yet still gleaming faintly. Dust drifts through the air like tiny stars. The world is quiet. The narrator speaks, his voice slow, reflective, infinite. Everything ends, and everything begins again. The story of a coin is the story of us, a circle without edges, turning forever between what was and what will be. Images flow, ancient markets filled with laughter, the ringing of forges, hands exchanging coins in dim light, the first presses at the U.S. Mint clattering in rhythmic motion, the birth of the 2019 penny, the astonished faces of collectors, the reverent silence of museums centuries later. All moments converge like ripples returning to a single point. The penny, once worth 1 cent, once rumored to be worth billions, now stands as something far greater. It has become the vessel of a civilization's heartbeat, a small embodiment of what humanity truly values: connection, memory, trust. Long after we are gone, the voice continues, what remains is not our wealth, but our meaning. The marks we leave, the words we carve, the metal we press, the faith we share, these are the currency of eternity. The camera rises slowly, revealing a landscape bathed in golden light. Children play beside a stream, tossing pennies into the water and watching the ripples dance. To them, it is a game. To the viewer, it is ritual. The ancient gesture lives again, to give away a coin, to make a wish, to believe that small acts carry infinite echoes. In distant halls, scholars debate the origins of value. Machines hum quietly, storing memories of an age-long past. Yet amid all the algorithms and archives, the penny remains, simple and perfect in its form. It is the same circle that guided farmers and merchants thousands of years ago. It is the same symbol that now humbles the digital age. The voice says, in our pursuit of the infinite, we forgot how much beauty lives in the finite. The film slows. A coin rolls across a table. The sound is soft, steady, ancient. Each rotation is a year, each glint a lifetime. As it finally settles, the narrator whispers, 1 cent, 1 story, 1 world. What we hold may be small, but what it means is everything. Images flash, faces of different ages, nations, and times, each one holding a coin between their fingers. Old hands, young hands, workers, dreamers, children, historians, all connected by this small piece of copper and belief. Their movements form a tapestry of humanity itself, a mosaic built on touch, and then, silence. The screen darkens again. The voice grows softer, almost prayer-like. We are born into a world already minted by the hands of those before us. We pass through it, leaving our marks, our stories, our trust. When we go, what remains are the things we touched with meaning. The penny endures because it carries all of us, our labor, our laughter, our hope. Its value was never in what it could buy, but in what it could remind us of. The music swells, the strings rising like a sunrise over the horizon. The camera pulls back to reveal the earth itself, slowly rotating in the cosmic dark, gleaming faintly like a coin in an endless sky. The narrator speaks the final lines, we measured it in cents. But in truth, it measured us, for in its smallness, we found greatness. In its simplicity, we found eternity, and in its quiet shine, we remembered that even the smallest thing, when loved, when believed in, can outlast time itself. The music fades into silence. The last image is a single penny resting in the palm of a hand. The light flares across it, soft, copper, endless. The hand closes gently, and the screen fades to black.